Today, we're going to be talking all things Christian fantasy, so stay tuned.
Welcome to the Christian Indie Writers Podcast, where we inform, encourage, and support Christian indie authors on their journey to publication. I'm Jamie Hirschberger. I write short fiction under the pen name J.R. Nichols.
I'm Jennifer Carl Tong, and I write historical Christian romance.
I'm Christina Catane, and I write Christian fiction.
Well, we're so happy to have you with us today, whether you're able to join us in the live chat. We already have so many with us. Good morning to Catherine, Piper, and anybody else out there who's listening but unable to drop something in the chat. If you're listening to us later, we also super duper appreciate and welcome you to the Christian Indie Writers Podcast. Please spread the word, like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, and tell everybody that you know that we're here so that we can reach, multiply the impact of this ministry for writers trying to get published. Thank you. And good morning, Elise, also. How are you ladies today? What's up with you, Jen?
Oh, gosh. So I have been, I feel like elbow deep, knee deep. I don't know what the phrase actually is. I thought I'm going to go in and I'm going to redesign my website. And I know we're going to talk about this in our Patreon this month, which is not this Tuesday, but next Tuesday, correct? It's the second Tuesday?
Second Tuesday.
Yeah. So you still have time to join our Patreon if you want to be part of this conversation. But can I say, I we have this discussion all the time. We use WordPress because lots of authors do. Most people do. It's the most used platform, but it's because it's so cheap. Right. And I am not a technophobe. I am pretty good with technology. Like,
you made that beautiful book cover. I think that you have a little bit of digital chops.
Yeah, I think, without to sound braggadocious, I think I'm above average when it comes to tech abilities, especially for my age group, right? Mm-hmm. I'm the person, I have people I go to for like the really deep tech stuff, like the hardwaring and that kind of stuff. But like everything else, I'm the person that people usually come to, right? I cannot get my website, I can't even design it right now because I can't get the HTTPS to work. Now, mind you, I purchased not one, but 2 5-year, on accident, 5-year, the SSL thing.
Security, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Can't get them to activate it. And the chat back and forth with it, like it's email. It is just so frustrating. And I know Tina was able to do it a couple years, like last summer is when I should have done it. I think it is. And I just wasn't looking over there. I got so frustrated. I stopped looking. So I was like, you know what? It's because I wasn't doing the work. I wasn't, putting the time in. That's all I've done this week. That's all I've done in my writing career is try to get that stupid S in place. And I can't. So
yeah.
Anyway, if there's anybody out there that is totally your jam is the behind the cPanel stuff, and you want to be my friend and take care of it for me, reach out to Jen at jennifercarltong.com.
Well, can they, or will they get rejected because you don't have your S? Or
you can email me fine, and you can actually get to my website if you go to the advanced button and say go proceed anyway to this unsafe website. There's nothing unsafe. Like I don't even have an e-commerce on there yet. Like,
oh my goodness!
That's the whole.
You're not collecting email addresses or anything. You're not collecting anything.
No,
so it's perfectly safe.
But and I know I complain about this, but to switch over to something like Wix or to, what's the other one?
Bluehost or
no, Bluehost is a hosting company. That's not like the actual building thing. Squarespace. To switch over to one of those, which I have used, I know them very well.
You went mute.
That was an accident. Yeah, I'm so technology, right? Anyway. It's kind of akin to giving up your publishing rights because you don't actually own anything when you do that. You own your URL and that kind of stuff, but any work you would do on there, you can't transfer over. At least what I'm doing now, I can. Anyway, that's my what's up. I have no like solution or anything positive. I'm just sick and tired of websites.
Well, we're going to have a whole, as you alluded to, chat about this. So if you join our Patreon, even at the $5 level, you get to come and have shenanigans with us every second Tuesday of the month. So if you have wish to opine on the pros and cons of whatever website builder you're using, we would love to hear that. I always fantasize about making enough money off of my books to hire that kind of stuff done. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't need a lot. You would think that it wouldn't cost a significant amount of money to hire somebody, but then you have to like trust them because you got to give them access. But I mean, there's like a different access levels you can grant to people, right? If you're in there.
Yeah, I mean there is, and it's one of those things where I'm with you. But if you remember in the past, I always argued and said I want to make enough money to pay someone to clean my house. I'll do all this other stuff because I don't dislike doing this.
Right.
Amen, sister.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to hire someone. I want to be able to afford to hire someone to clean my house who will also fix my website. That's where I'm at right now.
That's a unique combo right there.
I
think if you could write that book,
that would be two different people.
Yeah, if you could write that book, Boyfriend, I think you would sell 1 trillion copies.
He cleans the house and fixes websites.
Yes, he's a master at WordPress and the master of my heart. Yes.
Man, that's sexy.
It doesn't even matter what he looks like.
That's perfect. So
oh
perfect.
dear. Well, what's up with me? I alluded to this again. Our Shenanigans Crew Patreon, we have a little chat amongst ourselves, and I told them about this already, so I'm sorry, ladies, you're going to hear this story again. I went to Culver's because I'm a big fan of their cod dinner. It's so good.
It is so good. It's so good.
It's pricey, but it's so flaky, and then the like crust is like perfect because they cook it fresh, whatever. So
and if you don't eat it all, you can put it in your air fryer the next day, and it's even crispier. Like,
pay once, eat twice, baby. I'm all about that. So I asked the girl at the counter. I don't know how old she was, but under 20. Like people are in batches to me. There's like under 20, there's like 20 to 30, and then there's my age, which I am not anywhere near 31. However, 30 and up is my age, is how I feel. I'm deluded. Okay, so the girl takes my order, and suddenly I see her press a button, and on the screen pops up senior discount.
No.
85 cents.
No.
And I was like conflicted because, first of all, Culver's is expensive. So I will take what I can get. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
On the other hand, I did not ask for a senior discount. And I understand that she, again, under 20. So, like, who knows how old she really thinks I am. Senior discount, like the first time it happens to you is just a shock to the system, is all I'm going to say. It's different but now I think I can get away with asking for it everywhere I go. So it's kind of opened my eyes to a new reality, ladies.
Are you qualified for a senior discount?
I think you have to be 55, right?
I don't know.
I thought it was older than that. Please tell me it's older than that.
This is the thing. You ask, do I qualify for the senior discount? They're not going to, they won't know what to say because they won't want to say yes and they won't want to say no. So that's how you can really mess with people, I think. You get them back.
I do know you can join the senior center up by my house at 50.
Wow. Catherine Carroll says, makes note to go to Culver's next time my gray roots are showing. Also, somehow we lost Jamie there. Well, that was weird. She clapped her way off the screen.
It's a clap on, clap off screen.
Right.
Yes.
Elise says, talking about what's up, she's like, that's my husband. Really?
Dream
Girl.
Man. Does he
You
have
better
like a
keep your eye on
dad or a
him.
grandpa that he could like,
We're gonna
drop
come for
by?
him. No, just All right, we have some WhatsApps in our chat real quick. We'll hit them up. Piper says her WhatsApp is she put in a pre-order for a pocket full of pixies and she'll publish in September.
Yay!
That's amazing, Piper.
Congrats.
Congratulations.
Wow.
Catherine says her WhatsApp is taking small chunks of time to work on her work in progress with a house full of family and trying to inspire myself to work on my website before our writing salon. That was me too. I'm like, I cannot go into this, this writing salon without having at least looked at my website. And I went to look at my website and it was still unsecured. I'm like, oh, Jen, where have you been? Like, it's just one of those things I don't like to look at. So,
but you know what? Good for you, because the reason you're also thinking about it is you're going to have a launch coming up soon, and you're going to want to have your branding on point. You're going to want to have all those things in place. So don't shame yourself. Just be positive that you're moving in the right direction for this launch. So
I already changed my header with an image that has a coming soon thing for the book cover. So I'm doing that. I just can't get this one perfect.
I just did that 2 weeks ago, so I might be able to help you.
Oh,
are you going to be my dream man?
She's not going to clean your house.
Absolutely not.
So Tina, what is up with you, by the way? Have you been into your website? Your headband is adorable, by the way.
Yeah, it's a turban, actually, but
is it?
Yeah, it's got like this little braided thing right here. That's kind of weird, but yeah, I thought it was cute. So let's talk about a different kind of salon. Have you guys ever seen the little skit by what is her? Angela Johnson? She's a comedian that was on Saturday Night Live for a while, called Nail Salon. Oh, you have to watch it, because my WhatsApp will be so much better if you go watch it, and you'll get what I'm talking about. Because she does this whole thing where she went to the nail salon and she does an impression of the nail tech.
Yes,
the Chinese nail tech.
Yes,
and she can't understand her. And she's like, "What? And then she finally goes, no, and I don't want that. And she goes, you tell me you don't have boyfriend. Like, she goes on this.
Yes, I have seen that.
So yesterday, my daughter and I went, she had talked me into getting acrylics put on 3 weeks ago. So I needed to get them filled. So I go in there and the girl's wearing a mask. So I couldn't hear her. And then I couldn't understand her. So I told her I needed them shorter because I was having trouble typing. And she said, because what I had gotten done was 2 different colors of acrylic. So it looked like a French manicure, but it was 100% just the acrylic. And then they just put clear nail polish over the top. And she said, well, if I do that, the white will be gone. And I said, that's fine. I just need them shorter. So she's all done, right? And she asked me a question. I think she asked me if I wanted her to put white on my tips. I think that's what she asked me. And I was like, no, but I'm looking over there and I see that pink color and I really like it. And then she said something else. And I was so tired at that point of asking her to repeat herself because I couldn't understand her that I just said yes. And she pulls out the airbrush. Oh, no. This is what I got.
Oh, wow.
Oh,
very pretty.
I thought she was just going to paint my nail that pink color. And she got the airbrush and she did my tips in pink. So
Jennifer, really note that color down.
Yes.
That is very so pretty. Beautiful color.
Yeah, so that I was like, my daughter looked at me because she was right next to me getting hers done. And she gave me the questioning look. And I just went, I don't know. I don't know what I
Airbrushing. Airbrushing reminds me of a t-shirt you get with your boyfriend to walk around in Cedar Point. You get the airbrush on the back of it. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Absolutely.
Yeah, but I think it looks great, Tina. You're not happy with it, or you're just surprised?
Oh no, it was a surprise because I was like,
yeah.
And she didn't say the thing from the comedy skit, just $18 more.
I love it. And also I feel like the length is good too. It's very natural looking.
Yeah, really and I can type. Job. Like she cut first hand down, and I went like I put my fingers on the table and I pretended to type. And I'm like, okay, that'll work.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So
Well,
Speaking
that's
of pink,
wonderful.
can you like notice we're all wearing pink today? Like this is the color of the day, in case anybody wasn't noticing. Like
Think pink.
did you guys get the memo? Everyone out there listening? Pink,
you
pink.
got the
Yes, is everybody
non-existent
wearing
memo.
pink?
Your guys' pink is way prettier than mine, though. Much
No,
more
it's
agree.
not. And I was thinking, I love that cowl neck. Or like that drape
Thanks.
neck. I love a good drape neck. Okay,
Thanks,
so
Salvation Army.
oh, it's so great. That means it's a one of a kind.
And your blush
go.
matches it really perfectly. So
Thank you. I did that like while I was running late.
I know. I don't like my lipstick. It's not looking good on camera. I promise in real
No.
life it isn't this.
I think you look
Okay.
pretty. All right, enough of us fawning over each
Yes,
other.
I know, right? I forgot I was the host, having like a Jen moment there.
that's my job to forget I was.
Having a Jen moment. That's the best thing I've heard in so long.
That's more like a Tina moment, because I always forget I'm the host.
You said last time, anyway, so we are talking about the art. Yes, the art of writing Christian fantasy. Because honestly, we talk all the time about how you have to know the rules before you learn to break them. And at some point you graduate in your craft and your skill level to where you can kind of venture out and do some things that are, well, and even if you're brand new, who cares? Let's explore the artistic side of writing, right? And we're going to talk about doing so in a way that resonates with both faith-filled and secular readers. And so we're going to jump right into it with the first kind of segment, if you will, talking about how fantasy is just the perfect genre for you to explore themes surrounding faith. Would you ladies not agree?
Yeah, I agree. And especially when you go to look for a genre to categorize your book in. If you have any kind of miracles or angels, demons, that kind of thing, spiritual warfare in your book, it's just a perfect fit.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I wouldn't say perfect. It's the best fit.
Okay. And I think that the reason behind that maybe is because you can kind of take familiar topics in faith, but make them feel fresh because you have taken away things like a modern setting or the language, our everyday language. You can explore things in a bit of a different way.
Yeah. And even if you do use the modern setting, you're adding this other dimension to it, the spiritual dimension, that makes the modern world look different.
Yeah, I remember one time when we were talking, I think here on the podcast, or maybe it was sometime during an office hours, I remember kind of being a little kid or just in general, my thought process was like the real world is so boring compared to like what you can read in a book. Like you see a butterfly land on a flower and you just wish the butterfly would suddenly start talking to you or offer you some kind of an adventure. And that stuff just kind of doesn't really happen in real life, right?
Well, even the Bible uses, in my opinion, like fantasy to get across their messages too, and symbolism. And you think about the prophetic scriptures and talk about, I mean, like Book of Revelation. If you think about it on that level, like God used different symbols and things in like the visionary literature, like visionary scriptures, to be able to get across a message that we couldn't see in the natural form, if that makes sense. And I think that fantasy writers are able to do that and to harness that they're able to give across, especially fantasy writers of faith, be able to share messages that we just could not be shared in the same way in what we see in the natural form right now in our lives.
Yeah. I just had this whole vision of the lady in scarlet riding on the back of a dragon, which comes right out of Revelation. So.
Well, and it's interesting too, because if you were talking about a lady in scarlet riding on a dragon to a mixed audience of people who were of faith and people who were not of faith, it would not be sort of, offensive or it wouldn't put people off. So you can talk about spiritual topics, but not necessarily get into dogma or be preaching at people. You can kind of like hide it in like a parable style of it's like a parable style of Christian storytelling when you get into fantasy.
And I think if we were to look back to it, like, I mean, I don't know if anyone refers to him as like the father of Christian fantasy, but like J.R.R. Tolkien is so influential. His work basically is the basis for so much fantasy writing as we see it today. Like there are rules for, like we say, for every genre, there are rules. And a majority, from what I've read, the majority of like dragon lore really goes back and connects to the Lord of the Rings series and those dragons that and the way he wrote them. And people are like, you can break those rules, like Jamie kind of talked about earlier, but there's an expectation of people that read fantasy that if you're going to include dragons, they're going to have to at least like fit into these rules or a majority of the rules, or at least a nod to the rules. Otherwise people are going to be like, who's this? This is not how fantasy is written. You know what I mean?
Well, we've been talking spiritual things without really putting them out there in plain sight. And it's funny because we do use AI to help us brainstorm topic ideas. And ChatGPT gave us this amazing quote. It said, ChatGPT told us that fantasy is theology wearing a cloak. And we were all just like, what? ChatGPT? So we thought that we would share that quote with you all because it just really rang true to us. Wouldn't you ladies agree?
Yeah,
sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are pitfalls? So let's say you decide you want to write Christian fantasy. Already I'm thinking to myself, heavy on the Christian, heavy on the fantasy, where's the balance? But what are some pitfalls you can fall into writing Christian fantasy?
Well, and I think this first one is common to all Christian writing, and that's like just plopping a sermon in the middle of your story. I read a book one time. It was a Christian post-apocalyptic, and the whole entire first chapter was a guy sitting in church listening to the sermon. I stopped. I didn't make it past that first chapter because I didn't want to read the rest of the sermon. It's just like, and I'm a pastor's wife. Like, I like sermons, but this was just, I was just like, I couldn't do it.
But I'm going to offer.
No, go ahead, Tina or Jamie.
I'm going to offer a suggestion of a series to read if you want to see how to do it right. There's this author out of Michigan who wrote 2 books about like a pastor and his daughters, and the one daughter's a pastor, and never do you read a sermon, and yet you still know sermons happen in the books. I think her name is JCT. What could it be? Jennifer Carlton. Jen, you did have to make some choices about that, right? Like you didn't want to like beat people over the head.
Right, exactly. Like there are times when there's actually church happening in the books, but you only would get a snippet of it, and more importantly is you get what the emotions are happening in the room at the time, or the more like subversive stuff, not like the actual story. And then, but there are times that the part that like the punchy part, right? Maybe the scripture that is like the overall, like this is what you're supposed to get out of this. I will maybe share that, but I was going to say that there's an author out of Michigan who writes Christian fantasy named Christina Kane that you need to pick up her books, because I think she does a really good job at this as well, specifically in fantasy, but about like getting the message across much more organically. I think it's okay. I mean, I think it's more than okay to have Christian themes in your books and to have like even a salvation message straight up in your books.
Yeah.
But it has to be more organic. You cannot just be like too preachy like in your books. It has to come organically as part of the story arc, as part of your character arc. And that's when it's done well, when it's organic.
I always like to use internal dialogue with my character, and not while they're in the sermon, like if there's a sermon, so to speak, but later when they're evaluating their choices they're about to make or the things that are going on in their life. And then there's like one line of probably scripture or a quote that somebody said that has a biblical truth in it. And then they think about that, and then in order to apply it to whatever choice they're about to make or whatever thing is going on in there.
Because isn't that how it how it happens to us in real life. Like
Yes.
when I am confronted with, like, let's say a decision, a spiritual decision or something that I have to make, I don't sit there and replay the entire sermon that I heard this week because I don't have it memorized. But God will remind me of a certain scripture, or He'll remind me of something that was said that was in, like, with along with that scripture, and that's how we should write. Is how it would happen
Yeah.
organically in life.
Before we move on, I just want to piggyback on what you said, Jen, because there is a girl, a lady, a woman who I work with, and I will say, what did your preacher talk about this Sunday? And does she recite for me the sermon word for word? No. She kind of paraphrases. And so I feel like if you have access to people who go to a different church than you do, start asking them, what was your message last week at church? And kind of even copy down word for word what they say so that you can practice kind of getting a more realistic interpretation of a sermon if this is an area that you struggle with. Okay, so what about pitfall number 2, which we have jotted down here as poorly executed allegory? Ooh, so allegory is a pretty big word, right? English teacher, Jen?
Yes.
Yeah, so shorthand, what is an allegory for us?
An allegory is when you use something in that represents something else. That's the easy thing of it. But it tells like a little story, or it tells it, but there's something in your story that symbolizes something else.
Okay. All right. And so you don't want to really play around with allegory if you're not I don't know, a super duper expert with it, right? Because like today's readers kind of aren't really jazzed about allegory. They kind of would prefer a hidden parallel as opposed to just in your face. This is obviously supposed to represent Christ or something like that.
That's a great question. Like, I mean, like I mentioned J.R.R. Tolkien earlier, and C.S. Lewis is another one. Masters of allegory, right? And when done right and done well, it could be really good. But there probably is, you're right, there's probably a whole lot of garbage allegory out there not done well. So I mean, you asked, like, should they not play around with it? I don't know. I think everyone should be play around with it, like anyone who's doing Christian fantasy. But it is something you gotta be careful with. You got to make sure that you do it right, because again, we mentioned before, every genre has rules, whether you realize it or not. Like if you're writing a genre, you need to learn what the rules are, usually by reading a ton in that genre, reading blog posts by other writers in that genre. You figure out what the rules are so that you know them. But I don't know. What do you think, Tina? This is your genre.
Well, I was going to say that I've seen different what is the word I'm looking for? Like, you have on one end of the spectrum, you have J.R.R. Tolkien, where somebody could read his entire series and not realize that it's Christian allegory.
Right.
And then you have C.S. Lewis, which is a little more obvious. I'd say he's a little bit towards the middle. And then you have the Pilgrim's Progress. Now, I don't know if you've read the Pilgrim's Progress.
But I couldn't get through it.
It's a bestseller. And it is very in your face. Like, the guy's name is Christian. Mm-hmm. He's on a journey. He ends up in the slough of despond and he can't get out. Like that is like in your face allegory.
Right.
So there's this whole spectrum of ways that you can use allegory. And I think that if you practice and if you pray about it, and if you read all the allegory in the Bible, read those 3 books, and I don't think that would be that hard to figure it out if that's what you wanted to do. There's a little bit of allegory in my books. I'm not going to tell you what it is. It's people who have read it try to tell me what they think.
So this is an interesting, because we're talking Christian fantasy today, and there could be some argument that allegory can be used outside of Christian fantasy, maybe. But as a non-fantasy writer, I would never touch allegory in my books, myself personally. I think that for readers of Christian romance, they would rather have like spiritual resonance, meaning like they would rather have the scriptures resonate within the life of the characters and so they can see themselves in that character, or they can like learn something from it. But Christian fantasy is different, right, Tina? So it's like you open up a whole new world of like, you don't have to stick to things that are like at least possibly could fit into your character's life, right? Like
Right.
you still, it's got to be like a fine line though, because you still want people reading your book to see themselves in the character, right? Like
Right.
that's part of like the magic of writing.
Well, I think that's the fun of fantasy too, because your world can be as fantastical as you want it to be, but characters are characters, and characters have inner conflicts, and characters have goals and wants and desires, and they have things that are keeping them from getting that. So even if your character is a butterfly that breathes fire, there is something that butterfly that breathes fire wants and can't get to, and has to go on a journey to find.
That's good stuff.
Well,
And
I think
that resonates with readers.
I think that is a pitfall we might have been able to add to our list, having shallow characters that are, not really fleshed out in just for the sake of having a fire-breathing butterfly. So that was a bonus pitfall there, Tina. I appreciate that. But it kind of goes hand in hand because it's a shallow character. What about making the mistake of shallow world building? You have any... Tina, I know that your physical setting for the like not fantastical parts is a physical place, but how did you navigate world building for the fantasy and like Christian parts of your story?
Well, it was a process and it was a learning process, because in my first book, I feel like I didn't probably put enough in there to explain the fantasy part. Like my one bad review on Amazon is about my world building. But I feel like I've developed over time to where I'm much more cognizant of the fact that people need to understand the spiritual world that is present in my character's world, and how they see it and how it affects them and how it works.
Very good. Okay. Well, and don't you ever feel like you wish you could reach out to that person who reviewed and be like, here, read book 2. I'll give it to you for free. Tell me if I got better.
Right. Well, like Elise said in the chat, we spent a good chunk of time with the world building in this third book when I worked with her, and I feel so much more confident with this book in my world building than I did in the first 2 books.
Wow, that's really awesome.
For those of you that don't know, Elise is a book coach that Tina worked with, and we have an episode all about that if you want to go back and search for it.
Yeah.
Okay, so we don't want shallow world building. Okay, what about the tricky problem of incorporating magic versus miracles? We don't want to talk too much about this because our next episode is like a deep dive on here. But we do have to brush on this pitfall, right, ladies?
Yes.
If you're going to have magic in your Christian fantasy, the magic that is happening has to be, if you're calling it magic, or if your characters are calling it magic, it would be the power for the magic would come from somebody who is evil, an evil spirit, and they're the bad guy.
If you're calling it magic, yep.
So you're not going to have Harry Potter characters in a Christian fantasy and them being magic, unless they have a direct line to the Holy Spirit and God, which is where miracles come from. Right. And so people might look at that and saying, oh, that was magic. No, that was a miracle from the Holy Spirit working through a person from God. So you have to be careful with that.
Which we're going to go into depth next week's episode. It's specifically on miracles versus magic in Christian fantasy. So don't miss it.
Okay. All right. So now let's say you want to write fantasy and you are a Christian, but you hadn't really thought or figured out how can you weave faith into your fantasy. Maybe you were considering allegory. What can we do? How can we advise these writers, ladies, as to how they can build spiritual truths into their world and characters?
My first advice would be to go for what is your theme? What is your Bible-based Christian theme that you want to showcase in your book? And so, for instance, in my books, my first book is based on the theme of grace. My second book is based on the theme of forgiveness, and this book is based on the theme of faith. And so then, like, I literally said, what can I take my main character through that's going to require her to have unshakable faith? And then I said to myself, oh, she lives in Alaska, which is on the Ring of Fire, earthquake. You know, like, so like her whole world could be crumbling apart because of this earthquake, in addition to all the other things that are going on, that the struggles that she's having. And so that was my theme, and that's how I worked that out.
Okay.
In a nutshell. I mean, it was much more complicated than that, but.
Okay, so now our next kind of tip is symbolic elements. Jen, can you help me understand how that's different than allegory?
So it's basically it's very similar. I mean, but it's really kind of like not allegory is bigger. Allegory is like your whole story is gonna kind of like symbolize like a whole like thing, where the symbolic elements are having a character who or a character who sacrifices themselves in a way that's to save others. Obviously that would be kind of like a Jesus symbol, like light versus darkness, like prophecies fulfilled, things like that. So things that are symbolic of Christian spiritual truths, but that are in a fantasy world and in a fantasy setting.
Okay, gotcha. All right. And so incorporating those is a way that you can weave your faith into your story. Also, we can send our characters on a spiritual growth arc. And we've talked about this ad nauseum because we talk about characters and how important they are to not be flat. Is there anything specifically related to fantasy we should talk about with character arcs?
Well, their character arc should reflect spiritual growth of some kind.
All right. And I think that's kind of across the board advice if you're writing Christian fiction of any genre, right?
Right. Yeah. That's how I feel. Yeah.
Okay. And then
if your characters aren't going through spiritual growth and you're marketing your book as a Christian book, then what are you even writing for? Like, that's how I feel.
Right. I feel like my character, and I don't write fantasy, but so if we're just going to talk about character arc, I feel like I try to write a character arc and a character spiritual arc, and they go together, but they're not always the same thing, because a lot of times the growth that a character has to make is more of a worldly level, where the spiritual arc is obviously a spiritual level, and they coincide with each other, and they usually merge together at the end. And so with fantasy, it's the same thing, but you just have a wider range of fantastical ways that you can do that. Like you literally can have your character go on a fantastical journey in order to reach the same goal that I have to do in 1919 Lansing, Michigan.
Right. And if you look at the hero's journey, which a lot of fantasies follow, there is a plot point, and oh my gosh, I can't think of it. But there is a plot point where they come to an epiphany. And I feel like that's where this spiritual arc, like suddenly they have this growth, and that growth helps them to make it through the rest of their whatever struggle, challenge thing that they're going through, to get back to, because it's like a circular plot story structure where they get back to their real world.
Okay, great. Now, one last tip for weaving spiritual themes into your story. You can have like a godlike figure that reflects biblical attributes. And seems to me like Star Wars has one. Seems to me like lots of I almost feel like Bruce Willis in Armageddon was supposed to be like a Christ type, because he went, well, I don't want to spoil, but the point is, it's such an old movie and still I'm worried about spoilers. But anyway, that is our one last tip, right, ladies? Build in a godlike figure that will reflect biblical attributes.
Yep.
Okay. Yep. All right. So finally, we want to balance edification with entertainment. Right?
Right. I mean, that's the whole point of like, we're authors, right? So the whole point of, if our story isn't entertaining, then we could just be getting up and giving sermons to people. We're supposed to entertain. But we need to focus on, along with the entertaining and telling of a great story, like, all of these other elements will fit into that, because no matter how many of these elements you fit in, if your writing is bad, if the story is bad, if your characters are bad, then it doesn't matter. You've not written a great Christian fantasy. And the whole point is, this is something you want people to read, and then like it so much that they want to read the next one and the next one. So
yeah. And I figure, if you don't think you can make it entertaining, just go ahead and write essays. Like, there is a dearth in the world of good essays like the one C.S. Lewis used to put out. And there's plenty of people out there who just want to read, Christian researcher, scholarly opinions about biblical topics, right?
Right.
Okay, well, I think we have to move on in the interest of time, but be sure to tune in next week, because we're going to belabor this whole fantasy meshing with Christianity. We're going to talk about magic versus miracles a little bit deeper. But now it's time to move on to the feeding of the bags, which is my favorite part of Friday. And this is what it's all about. We all write to the same prompt for 15 minutes, and then we bring them here unedited and share them live on the air to inspire you to exercise your writing muscle. If you want to share what you write to today's prompt in our Facebook group, we would love to see it. So, Jen, what was our prompt today, and what did you write?
So it was 5 words today, and the words were lantern, whisper, storm, keepsake, and betrayal. And I asked Tina if she purposely chose these because they would fit into my Widows of the West, because it just
so perfectly.
I know, right? So I wrote Widows of the West too, but I honestly think that this is going to be re-edited and maybe go into book 1, but we'll see. This is just free writing, everyone. So
sure, yeah.
Charlotte grabbed the lantern off the hook and pulled her wrap tightly around her shoulders. The silk of the wrap felt strange, clasped in her now calloused fingers, one of the last remaining keepsakes from a lost life she no longer mourned. Strange how the things she had once valued so highly had become strangely foreign to her in her new circumstances. The sky beyond the barn illuminated in the distance. Charlotte waited for the clap of thunder, but when nothing came, she continued toward the barn. The storm was still a far way off, but if the wind that whipped her at her skirts was any indication, it would be her sooner than later. It was probably best if she shut up the barn, just in case. When she got to the barn, something seemed amiss. Copper was at the door of his stall, head out, ears alert. She had never come into the barn in a storm, so she had never seen him during one. Could he possibly be sensing the coming thunder? Maybe, but his stomping feet seemed a little too anxious for a storm that was still miles away. Maybe she was just being paranoid, but Copper's uneasiness rubbed off, and Charlotte decided she should probably hurry with her mission. She pulled the north doors closed and latched them, then turned back to the south entrance. But before she could take another step, she heard the whisper, "Hey there, Lottie." 3, 2, 1.
No!
That's all I got.
Copper was on the alert.
Creepy guy in the barn.
Ooh.
I got every word except for betrayal. I was trying to get there, but right now time.
I love your use of the calluses as the keepsake. Because you would not ordinarily think of calluses as a keepsake. Like it was just so good, because do you know what I mean?
Okay, so I appreciate that feedback, because that's helpful. I didn't mean the callus to be the keepsake. It was supposed to be her wrap, her silk wrap. But again, it's a free write, so I didn't word it like as I'm reading it out loud. I'm like, I didn't write that well. Like, I did not write that in a way, because I agree with you.
Accidentally did, because that's so amazing that the calluses would be considered a keepsake of like her long ago life. So sorry, but anyway, you could maybe both are keepsakes, or
but the calluses are new, because her old life, remember, she was yeah.
Right.
So.
Okay. Sorry, but anyway, it was meant to be a compliment.
I totally got that. That was the silk wrap. That was the keepsake. So
love it.
So maybe you don't need to change it as much as you think you do.
Well, thanks.
So, yeah.
I really liked that. I feel like Why did we both write about storms? Oh yeah, storm was one of the words.
Well, I'll go second. And what's funny is I feel like in this particular case, like my character could live in the same small town area. It just feels like they're sharing the same moment. It's crazy.
Oh, cool.
So let's read this and see if you agree. Okay. Before the storm, everything goes quiet. Birds are silenced, things are still. Then the wind rises up in gusts and puffs. Nature's whisper, watch this. A rumble on the heels of that is your last chance to find someplace dry to hunker down in before one final great mass of wind shakes the arms of the trees until the wavering branches appear to cheer you on as you race for the door. It was on the air of such a wind that I entered the cabin that night, breathless with my run from the barn and my efforts to keep my skirts down with one hand and the eggs in my apron with the other. The light I let in fell on Pa's face as it entered the lantern-lit room, and as the door closed, leaving us in orangey darkness, I wondered why my ma had allowed the fire to burn down so low. I had been chilled by the sudden wind, but my face flushed with heat when I met Pa's eyes and then followed them to the basket on the hearth. It was always like that when he chastened me. He never had to say a word. Bring them eggs here, fussed Mama, who didn't seem in the least concerned that I'd neglected to make use of the gift she and Papa had made to me last Christmas. Then get yourself. The silence was interrupted by the sound of a million raindrops that seemed to fall on the roof of the cabin all at the same time. A boom of thunder brought my little brother Silas and my sister Mirabelle stampeding into the room and colliding into my skirt. I was almost toppled and thought I'd die with laughter. Now, you fraidy cats, it's only a bit of rain, I pretended to scold, petting the little blonde heads. Foolishness, Mama snapped, though I could see the good humor in her eyes and the hint of a smile on her lips. And that was all I had time for.
Oh, I love it. So I love the orangey glow, which, tells you that like it's because of lantern, right? So I love that part. I want to know why her mom let the fire burn down, and then I had this feeling that the dad was about to their dad was like in a bad mood, but maybe I caught that wrong. I don't know, but it was really well written. I feel like I already see these characters, and yeah, well done, Jamie. Well done.
And I feel like I didn't hear you actually say the word betrayal, but like him looking at the basket kind of hinted at it. Like, why didn't you use the basket? Because she's like holding all these eggs in her thing, and she could have used the basket. And then like my mind is going, so why didn't she use the basket? Did she just forget? Or is she doing it on purpose because she's like got some like underneath everything she's like mad at them? Like my mind was going a million different ways.
I appreciate
Which is
that.
a good story when you do that, because then you're like, ooh, which one is it? Or what's going to happen?
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's been very rough for me to write recently. I've been feeling very uncreative. So it was a chore to make myself sit down and do it. It's nice to get the feedback. Appreciate that. What did you write, Tina?
Well, I think we're all living in the same town, only I got the worst part of the storm. That's what I think.
It like slowly built, right? Like I was before. Jamie was like, the rain just started, and here you are.
Okay. Here goes. The lantern flame flickered. Please don't burn out, Tammy said in a whisper. The storm had come up quickly. One minute there were clear blue skies, and the next dark clouds rolled over the horizon and bore down on them like a freight train. Not a good night for old Black to go into labor. Why hadn't she taken Clarence up on his offer to stay and help? Stupid, stubborn pride, she said out loud, her self-disdain evident in her tone. Old Black whinnied her agreement. This is my first foal as well as yours, she said, rubbing the white blaze on the black mare's forehead. It will require us both to have grace for each other. The mare flared her nostrils and nodded her head up and down. Good, we're in agreement then, Tammy said, then turned to the bale of hay she'd tugged into the stall, grabbing the knife off the ledge and cutting the string binding it. Lightning flashed, followed by deep, rolling thunder. Wind blew the barn door open with a crash. Tammy rushed to close it, using her entire weight to fight against the wind trying to stop her. She heard her grandma's voice in her head. "Freight train isn't coming." She gasped, realizing she could hear the freight train in her head roaring and clattering down the tracks. She looked at the horizon and her body turned to ice. She stared in disbelief. The largest funnel she'd ever seen was spinning its way straight toward them, just debris flying in all directions around her. "Oh God," she exclaimed, "how I prayed for a successful night of Fullen, and you have betrayed me." She turned back to the barn, trying to think of what to do. The pounding of horses' hoofs sounded behind her. Clarence raced past her, opening all the stalls and shooing the horses out. "No," Tammy exclaimed as she watched Old Black race out the door and turn at the corner of the barn. "She's about to foal," she cried, racing out after her. Clarence grabbed her arm. "Horses have been foaling without us for thousands of years. She'll be fine. Storm shelter." He pointed toward the trapdoor behind the house. "Now." 3, 2, 1.
Oh gosh.
Wow.
So good. Ever since a child and watching The Wizard of Oz, this is my fear, is like being out on a prairie and a storm coming, you can see, and having to run to like the doors and so good, Tina. I feel like
Thanks.
I was just right there. Like, how cool, like, that our stories progressed this way. And I feel like we were all in the same town, in the same place, with the same storm. That's so cool.
After I wrote it, I was like, Old Black is a horrible name for a mare about to have a foal.
I think the name, though, like that choice really painted a whole thing for me, because I felt like, who would name a horse that? And it like kind of created a character, and it kind of like helped set what was kind of going on. Like, there's somebody in this world who would name a horse Old Black, like, and you don't feel like it was the girl, so you feel like this is someone in her orbit. And then the ideal of letting the horses all go feels like, makes you wonder, like, what do animals do in a tornado? You know, like I've seen that cows will kind of bunch up, or read that or something. Anyway, there's so many things to make you wonder and think. And at the same time, the pacing is right to show the panic that they're experiencing. So it was just really full of good little nuggets, Tina.
Yeah, like I already have a story in my head of where this is going, because that's like good writing, right? I already know that like her name wasn't Old Black to begin with. It was probably Black Beauty, but she's old now. Probably too old to actually have a foal, and shouldn't be. So guess what's going to happen to her in this process? But the little foal is going to survive, and this girl is going to be raising this foal, and this is going to be the story, and it's going to be a great book, and I'm going to want to read it. Like, you know what I mean? Like in my head.
You're welcome to write it.
Yeah.
Name the foal Bishop. I like the name Bishop for the foal.
Ooh.
And I'm not even sure letting the horses out of the barn is the right action to do, but I was thinking tornado, like they're better off being able to run from it than being stuck in a stall and have the whole barn come down on them.
Right. Well, and I think that your character, his name is Clarence, I think, that's just what he feels also. Like whether that's sage wisdom or whether it's ridiculous nonsense, that's what he thinks. And so that's what he did.
Because, you know, my granddaughter loves the show Spirit. It's about a horse back in those days. And I just was thinking, like, horses have been living out in the wild without any barns for how many hundreds of years and surviving just fine. I feel like they would know instinctually what to do.
Okay, well, we've got to wrap things up. Thank you for all the kind words in the chat. We do have some praise for our writings friends. Please take a crack at it yourself and post in our Facebook group. We'd love to see what you come up with. What's next for you, ladies? Jen, what's next for you before we meet again?
HTTPS. I'm going to make an appointment with my good friend Tina to have her sit with me and figure this garbage out. That's literally all on my list right now. Once that's done, then I can figure out other things to do.
What about you, Tina?
Well, I'm just going to write, like that's, but I have been trying to get back into a writing routine. But when I got out of the hospital, God was like, okay, you need to prioritize what you're doing. So I was like cutting short my devotions to write, and I don't feel like I can do that anymore. But sometimes my devotions are lasting till like lunchtime. which is
Well, that's
fine.
not a bad thing.
Right. I don't feel like that's a bad thing because what do I have else do I have to do? But then when I try to make myself write in the afternoon, it's a struggle. So I'm still working on having a consistent writing routine.
All right. And I'm just going to keep trucking along as normal, maybe write a little more so Friday doesn't feel so weird. But that concludes this episode of the Christian Indie Writers Podcast. Until next time, may your pen be prolific, may your deadlines be met, and may all of your words honor Christ. Bye now.